Hello and welcome to Obscure Movie Reviews, where we love to take a look at some of the more unknown and ambiguous titles in cinema history. Here we focus on movies that are hard to find, on the older side, relatively unknown, or perhaps they simply lack in popularity. So sign your lease and sharpen your fangs as we read the fine print in Salem's Lot. When Ben Mears returns to the small town of Jerusalem's Lot where he grew up, he's pushed to face both forces old and new, but all evil. Salem's Lot was released in 2004 as both a remake of the 1979 film as well as a new adaptation of the Stephen King novel. It was originally conceived as a two-part miniseries like its predecessor, but was later released on DVD as a full-length feature. It received mixed reviews, with praise for its atmosphere and performances, but criticism for lacking scares and deviating from the novel's tone. Let's see if those reviews are fair. Rob Lowe stars as our main protagonist, Ben Mears. Some might suggest that this is a miscasting due to Rob Lowe having a somewhat limited range, often playing stoic characters that take themselves a little too seriously. I tend to agree with this assessment, as his performance can come off as a little wooden at times, making scenes where he's supposed to be fearful, angry, or sad not fully land. But as a narrator for the audience, he serves his purpose well enough. Donald Sutherland and James Cromwell give far more interesting performances, with Cromwell probably being the best standout as Father Callahan, though watching Sutherland play a jovial psychopath in his interpretation of Straker is a bizarrely fun watch. And while surrounded with a pretty effective supporting cast, I just can't help but give credit to Rutger Hauer as Kurt Barlow.
Are there any ghosts in that old house?
Ghosts? No. No ghosts.
Fans of the novel will note that this portrayal is far more accurate to the source material. He's cool, calm, collected, and probably the scariest vampire in the film. It's a difficult challenge for any of these actors to get standout moments in a story like Salem's Lot because there's just so many characters, but the miniseries format allows each character to get their moment in the sun, so to speak. With the weakest performance being the lead, but shored up by some really noteworthy ones, it'll get a score of 7 out of 10 for having good performances. The film runs for 181 minutes. While that may seem long, you have to remember that it was released as a two-part miniseries before it was released as a feature. Long as it is, however, it's never boring, giving you just enough time with each character to get to know them, but not too much time away from them that you start forgetting who people are. It starts slowly as we're being introduced to the town and our main characters, and a lot is revealed through narration, though that narration never really feels forced. And while it takes a little while for the action to get going, once it does, it never really slows down. As supernatural thrillers go, it moves at a pretty steady pace, only slowing down when the plot requires it to. Compared to other movies of similar length, it isn't a chore to sit through, and because it has a natural break from being a miniseries, you could comfortably watch it in 2 sittings if you start feeling tired after a long day of being my wife.
Does that bother you?
No.
It will get a commendable 9 out of 10 for being very well paced. The film is shot by cinematographer Ben Knott and directed by Mikhail Salomon. Both have long-standing careers and worked several times together on other projects, notably other TV miniseries and episodics. Knott would work on several notable projects including Daybreakers, another vampire thriller in 2009, and Salomon may be better known for his own cinematography on films like Backdraft and The Abyss. They paint a rather atmospheric and eerie setting of rural Maine, and they did it all in Creswick, Victoria, Australia, Australia, which has the rustic charm they were looking for, but on a budget that would work for a TV release. The modern 2000s setting, which deviates from the book's 1970s setting, meant that costuming would be simpler, but the vampire effects are mostly effective, though come off accidentally cartoonish at times due to the CGI. But it's serviceable for a budget of $15 million. Many other vampire films came out around this period and spent substantially more, giving less product in some ways. Dracula 2000, 30 Days of Night, and Let Me In all came out between 2000 and 2010, all had slightly higher budgets, and all had a lot less story to juggle. So it's an impressive feat, but you can still tell it isn't a big budget film. This will score a 6 out of 10 for having above average cinematography. The musical team of Patrick Cassidy, Lisa Gerrard, and Christopher Gordon have helped bring to life epic soundtracks like Kingdom of Heaven, Master and Commander, and Gladiator. I don't want to say that their talents are wasted here, but the musical score for Salem's Lot is pretty unmemorable, which is a shame because it does add to the overall atmosphere, but isn't likely making your playlist. The recording quality is very good, which you would expect for TV adaptations of this time period and quality, and some of the vampire sound effects can be almost stomach-churning at times, so good job to the Foley artists on that end. The soundtrack will earn Salem's Lot a 5 out of 10 for being rather average. The story is based off the novel by Stephen King. Personally, this is also my favorite novel from Stephen King, and the film attempts to stay relatively true to the source material, though it deviates in some notable ways. Some characters and their plots get mushed together, which makes sense. Then some new characters are created that aren't from the novel, but you can sort of find their counterparts if you look closely enough. Plus, there are some modern societal touches, like adding more diversity than the original book, which works in some places and is strangely out of place in others. The rundown is that Ben Mears is a novelist who writes nonfiction, a deviation from his book counterpart who wrote exclusively fiction, and is looking to write a new book about the town. Meanwhile, the old Marsden house that overlooks the town and has a haunted history has new owners that are as mysterious as they are otherworldly. Before long, people begin disappearing, some turning up dead. If only they would stay that way. As far as book adaptations go, it's about as faithful to the source material as the original '79 film was, and later adaptations would be, with its share of deviations, but in different ways. But in an era where vampires in film were either sex symbols or mindless monsters, the vampires here hold a sinister wickedness that gives them a frightening edge. It'll get a 7 out of 10 for having a good story. The movie suffers a little on the rewatchability level, with the overall length and sort of bland resolution, which was also a problem for the book. Many audiences would struggle to sit through it more than once. I'm not one of them, but then I'm a sucker for vampire cinema. Though I will say I find that vampire films in general struggle to actually end their stories, often leaving room for the audience to wonder. That can make it difficult to reinvest your time in watching a film again, especially a 3-hour film. Though sitting through it once is easy enough, you won't really glean anything new from a second watch. That gives it about a 3 out of 10, because the rewatchability is just not good. While this film obviously gets compared a lot to the 1979 version, I find that I don't compare them much myself. Despite obvious similarities coming from the same source material, they really are two different films. I actually prefer most of the vampire scenes in the original, I just think they're much creepier, but I prefer this version of Barlow, and I find this version much easier to sit through, whereas the original can really drag on at times and become difficult to follow, and is really a product of its time period in terms of its cinematography. I give this film a 7 out of 10 because at the end of the day, I think it's a good movie. Overall, Salem's Lot scores a 6.29 out of 10, being an above average to good film. While it likely won't go down in the annals of vampire movie history, it's still a good Halloween season watch. Thanks everyone for watching this episode of Obscure Movie Reviews. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure that you like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to get the latest videos, and be sure to check out our other fun content.